Hello, I'm Kat, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. So today's topic is going to be the latest iteration of the Hero's Path, specifically the Path of Power. The return of He-Man, of course, is what we're talking about here, and his associated path. He has come back, Skeletor has come back, and thankfully, I guess for those who care, an opportunity to get the soul for He-Man has come back. And they don't always do this, but this is my favorite type of Hero's Path in terms of this soul availability, where it's not just all or nothing, 5-star or 0. You can pick and choose how far you would want to go between the 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and all the way up through the 5-star soul. But yeah, pretty linear path in this regard. So you can see the souls here on the right hand side, a bunch of soulstone stuff on the left hand side. And the best news is that you actually don't need a single key at all if you want to go for the souls. That is the first thing I look for when it comes to any type of Hero's Path. As you can note, if you want the avatars, that's the only thing that matters for getting the keys. And of course, there is the ridiculously more accessible key here in the center, just straight off the beginning here. So if you really care about getting one or the other of the avatar, if you didn't get it already, the last time they had this Hero's Path of the Path of Power, I guess it was a couple years ago, I checked, back in December of 2024, fun fact. But if you don't have either one of the avatars, then you could go for that. But of course, the main allure here is going to be, of course, the up and through the 5-star soul for He-Man. Now, the Path of Power is a combination of Gear Hunters and a Summon Rush. So normally we would have a Champion Chase associated with a 2x because, of course, there is also 2x Sacreds going on right now. But this is effectively a Summon Rush. So you won't get any benefit for doing any previous fusions or the last fusion, Masahiro, or Anaxia from Grim Forest if you guys have gotten that already. So don't claim those this weekend. It won't count. It has to be a summoning champion specifically from shards, and these are the pretty standard amounts of points you get for each type of shard. And yeah, like I said, this path is pretty darn straightforward. You basically just come down, if you care about the soul stuff, you go to the left hand side, but we're not going to really talk about that. I don't think that's what most people are going to be going for. And so the most important thing is going down the right hand side, and it's literally in order. So you get the legendary tome, then the 1-star, 2-star, and so on. So in terms of overall cost, if you just focus in on the right hand side, again ignoring the fact that you don't really need the keys unless you care about the avatars, getting yourself just the legendary tome is 28,500 points. You add 1,000 to get to the 1-star soul, that's 29,500 points. You add 3,000, then that takes you up to 32,500 points for the 2-star soul. You add 5,000 to that, you get 3-star for 37,500. You add 10k to that, you get the 4-star soul for 47,500. And last but not least, to the big kahuna, you add 35,000, holy moly, to that one, and you get the 5-star soul for a grand total of 82,500 points. Now, as usual, that is a bunch of numbers that I just threw out at you, but we do have this in a more digestible format in the spreadsheet, which will be linked in the description box down below if you'd like to check out a copy of this for yourself. So everything we just talked about, legendary tome and all up and through the 5-star souls, are these respective amounts here at the bottom. And in terms of the equivalent shard types, or the equivalent shards it would take to get one of these, again, assuming you were to do this entirely with shards, not accounting for any amount of Dungeon Divers credit, which you would get, of course, just by running the campaign or running dungeons, then, for example, 7 Sacreds or the equivalent would get you the legendary tome, which is about on par for 3,500 points in a Summon Rush, which so it's about the same as where legendary tome would normally be. Same amount if you just want the 1-star. I would say if you really cared about going for the souls, you really would want the 4-star, at least the 2-star to get the attack, but the 4-star gives you the HP and crit damage, and the 5-star could power up your blessing, but that might be a stretch goal depending upon your needs. But again, 2-star, 8 Sacreds, relatively cheap and affordable. 4-star is 11 Sacreds or the equivalent, and then the 5-star is up and through 19 Sacreds or the equivalent. Although you could argue that there's not much value in stating the equivalents because there is a 2x on Sacreds, i.e. you're more incentivized to pull from Sacreds rather compared to any other type of shard. This is not your standard progressive chance associated with a Hero's Path that we've come to expect. Now, when it comes to whether or not this path is worth your while, I think it's a pretty simple answer for anyone like myself who is free to play or a low spender or just doesn't have He-Man for whatever reason. Who cares about a soul for a champion that you don't have, and in theory will not come back sometime in the future? Obviously, that's what they told us last time He-Man came around, and then, he kind of popped back up for this collaboration. But I don't think there's going to be Masters of the Universe 2, maybe. I don't know. Depends, I guess, depends how well the first movie does. But regardless, this might be the last time that you're ever going to see this champion. So if you don't have the champion, who cares about a soul? Ergo, why would you participate at all? But of course, they are trying to incentivize people to go for him, because if you look in the portal here, you do have a 10x on He-Man himself. So if you didn't get him, or if you didn't just buy him from, of course, the Champion Pass, you could risk your shoot your shot and try to get it from Sacred Shards. However, I will preface by saying that a 10x, assuming you get legendary at all, means that there is about a 4% chance that the legendary that pops out of that shard, assuming you get one, is going to be He-Man, i.e. a 96% chance that you're going to get any other legendary in the pool. So the odds are highly, highly against you if you wanted to go that route, assuming you don't have the champion. You would be much better off just buying the champion. If you think about the equivalent cost of Sacreds, the Champion Pass, I believe, at least in USD, is what, $40 plus a little bit of effort. If you're impatient, I guess it could be $60, but $40 is what, 2 Sacreds? So for 2 Sacreds, instead of pulling 2 Sacreds to try and go for them, you just pay $40 and you get the champion. That's what I would do if you really cared about getting He-Man. But if you don't care about getting He-Man at all, like we said, then who cares about this Hero's Path? Because you have no incentive whatsoever to go for anything. And of course, we know that there's a fusion coming. We know they just announced the latest event dungeon coming soon. There's a bunch of new champions coming. We're going to have, probably Decks of Fate, Hero's Paths, and whatnot for them on top of 2 fusions. So we already kind of know that within the next 2 to 3 months, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to spend your shards on, air quotes, guaranteed champions. And so this is probably just a time to skip. That is definitely my formal recommendation. But of course, if you are in the situation where you were tempted by He-Man, you did purchase him, or you've had him from the past and you don't have his souls, you could pull as much as you would like in order to go for whichever tier of soul is appropriate for you. Again, 2-star for the attack, 4-star for the crit damage and the extra HP, 5-star if you want a higher level blessing effect like Lightning Cage or whatever else you might put on him, Heaven Cast, for example. But I have a sneaking suspicion that majority of people are going to be hard skipping this event just like myself. But of course, let me know if you disagree with that take in the comment section down below. Now, in general, I would say that for me, this is going to be a hard skip. However, I will probably, since I don't really have much else to use my energy on right now, I'm running Sand Devil because there's a Sand Devil Turn Attack tournament, and also I just want Dust in general. But there's some Plarium points up for grabs here, and these are relatively hard to come by as a free-to-play player. Of course, you get these by buying things in the shop, which I don't do. And so 30, it's a small amount, but it's more than, this is what, like 5 days worth of logging in for a little bit of farming dungeons and or campaign. So I definitely think that I can get, what, 2,000 and something points and just get that, and that's probably going to be it for me in terms of this path. Just a little bit of Dungeon Divers, tiny bit of energy, maybe 1 day's worth or less than a day's worth of in terms of what we get for just playing the game naturally, and that's probably going to be where I would stop at the Plarium points there. So yeah, there you have it. That's going to do it for the free-to-play review of the Path of Power. This is basically a path of skip for majority of us who are either don't have He-Man or are low spenders free-to-play who cannot get He-Man in any way, shape, or form, realistically speaking. Let me know in the comment section down below what your plan is relative to this Hero's Path, and if you were pulling shards in general just for 2x Sacreds, let me know what you got from your Sacreds in the comment section down below. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit the subscribe button down below as well, if and only if you're enjoying the content overall on the channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.